It's not really a ghost town because we're still here. And we're not ghosts.
Hi, I'm Chris Dallin with The Long Way Home. Part of the spirit of the show is to get out and see unique places, people, and venues that are off the beaten path. We certainly found that here in Silver City, Idaho. Created in 1863, it's the same as the day it was created. Come on in and let's check out Silver City, Idaho. We're here in Silver City, Idaho. Give us just a brief history.
Well, gold and silver was first discovered here in 1863 by a party of miners that came over from the Boise Basin. They discovered gold in May. By fall, there was 1,000 people. It's a pretty good sized town down the creek here called Ruby City. And of course, they were all kind of come up the creek looking for the mother lode because, you know, they're getting the gold out of the creek. They knew it had to come from somewhere. About that time, they discovered gold up here on War Eagle Mountain and a lot of silver in it. So it really, from about 1864, 65, Silver City's been the main town up here, although Ruby City until 66 was the county seat.
The weather in Ruby City, just a mile down the road, it's because of the geographic way the mountains are setting. The winds are just horrendous. They come down the canyons, and it was blowing everybody's houses over. And they decided to move the town here, renamed it Silver City, and they decided to make Silver City the new county seat, as it were. And it actually was the new county seat until they took it off the books in the 1980s.
My great-grandfather came in 1864. He was actually a newcomer. He was the year after. And raised dairy cattle, sold milk, butter, and cheese and stuff into the mines, which was very lucrative in those days to get food up here. Must have been because within 10 years he bought a whole herd of beef cattle. Most every family up here's got a story similar to that. You know, they were either mining or they were up here in the mercantile business. A lot of those people that maybe were gone for a generation or two, but they come back.
I can't imagine how rough life must have been up here in the mountains back in 1863 and so on, but it really is a great way to connect with the past. Any suggestion for someone who hasn't been here before?
I think you need to maybe take a look at your own self and realize, you know, my parents always said, remember where you came from, you know, when you walked out the door. And I think that has a lot to do with our nation's problems and things now. Nobody knows where they came from and how hard it was for us to get here. So, you know, connect with your past. Go back and see who your great-grandfather was or great-great-grandfather and look and see where they grew up and where they died and go visit these things and see it wasn't an easy life for them. You know, they didn't turn on a switch. They didn't turn on a faucet. They didn't go to the store. They had to make their way. And I think we've lost a lot of that and of the appreciation and humbleness and thanksgiving for all those things.
What keeps it so authentic?
Well, back in the early 60s, late 50s, the townspeople all got together and said, hey, you know, nothing's been built in this town for 60, 70 years. It's kind of getting to be a show place. It's a historical place. And they got the county to pass a zoning ordinance, which the residents themselves wrote, that there'd be no new building except they could approve by pictures that they had a porch on before or a bedroom that had fell down or a lean-to woodshed. They could rebuild that, but no new building. And nothing that had fallen completely down was to be rebuilt. You know, much of the town has been reconstructed, sort of, but it's just like it was at the time. We had 250 buildings. We lost probably 80% of them. We've got, I think they've counted 68 that are still left.
Talk to us about you, Roger. I mean, you're a unique guy that has a unique passion. You want to share this wonderful history with folks. What drives you to do that?
The little brunette back in the kitchen, it's all her fault.
You are the proprietor of the Idaho Hotel.
Yes, I am.
Tell us how that came to be.
Well, my husband and I came up here to go camping early 1980s and just kind of fell in love with the area. Started working on what is now the Stoddard House and just started helping other people around town. And we met Ed Jagels at the time owned the hotel.
The guy couldn't pound a nail, couldn't run a screw, but yet he stumbled across people that would help him out. He probably hired some of the worst help you could ever come down the street.
Ed had put almost 30 years resurrecting this building, and it was, we'll show you pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. He came down with cancer. He said, I've got to sell it. I'm just going, oh. So he said, I just don't feel comfortable leaving it to somebody that's not going to continue on trying to keep it open. Mm-hmm. So he made us an offer that we just didn't feel like we could refuse. So 2 mortgages later, we we were the proud owners of the Idaho Hotel.
You guys are in 3, 10, 11. So room 3 is this one right here. Oh, I don't like to be on camera. This is the washroom. And if this light gets left on, preferably if somebody walks by, please turn it off and kind of patrol it. Because poles are solar. We're totally all solar. So that's how it works here. Okay, showers are in here. 1, 2, that one's upholstery. Towels and washcloths are up here. If you're too short, there's a stool. I had to tell Chris that. So anyway.
So
What?
there's a joke in there somewhere, but I'll let it go. Go ahead.
I can tell I'm going to have fun with you tonight. At the very end on the far right is the restroom.
Okay. Is there any circle that you need to walk before you use it or anything?
No, it's just a flushing toilet. I think it's an RV toilet, but if you know how to use your foot pedals.
This one? Here.
One night.
Where is it?
This is going to be.
Oh, it's right here.
So, fire extinguishers. If there is a fire here, I suggest not using the fire escape because it ends just below that window. So you need to bail off the front end or get down the stairs. And the upstairs is definitely off because the floor is not secure up on the top floor. Okay. So no upstairs. Okay, so I'm going back down to the kitchen.
Okay, thank you. Now, if there's a fire, don't go out this.
No, do not go out the fire escape. If you look, it's just rocks at the bottom.
Stops.
I tell people owning a building that's over 150 years old is like having 150 kids. Rewards are just phenomenal. Heartbreaks are phenomenal. And expensive as hell.
Here it is today, and we're doing a good business.
Well, and we really appreciate you keeping history alive for folks. It was amazing to me that you could walk down the street and really feel like, you were living back in 1863. Of all places in the world to come to on a Saturday, what brings you here to Silver City?
It's funny you say that actually because today in Boise is the Boise Music Festival, and we'd rather do this than be over there.
Why is that?
It's something that it's a special trip. It's very scenic. The food is good. The pie is amazing, and there's just so much history. Every time that I come here, I think about what it was like back in its heyday. When they were mining back in the Old West. And to us, it's a fun experience.
So how is the pie?
Fabulous. they have 6 flavors, so we had 3 in there and 3 more to go. So
You have to come back at least 6 times, it sounds like.
yes, exactly.
Or do they have different pies every day?
That's a good question.
That's a quandary.
It's worth another trip, I think.
So what's the magic of the pie here? Because everyone has said you got to go up to the hotel and get a pie.
Well, that is Jerry's secret recipe. I don't know.
I think there's a whole lot of love in there. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. No, everybody loves her pie.
So Pat, you run a store right here in downtown Silver City.
I do.
And the name is?
Pat's Whatnot Shop. I have run it for 35 years now, but I've owned the house since 1974.
Silver City is not necessarily an easy place to get to, I wouldn't say.
No, you don't happen by. That's very true. It's a destination, definitely, yes.
Indeed. So what advice do you have for folks that might be wanting to come to Silver City?
Well, just come on up. I think it's well worth it because there's so much history. It's like stepping back in time. There are other mining towns, but a lot of them have been totally commercialized. Yes, I have a business and the hotel and the place next door, but you don't see billboards for miles advertising, kind of people come and they're like, oh, it's not a ghost town, because a lot of people think it's going to be totally empty.
Everybody who comes and stays, which room has the ghost in it? And I said, well, that would be called entertainment, and I'd have to charge you extra. So if you happen to see a ghost, then hey, you're lucky. But what we have seen in the 15 plus years that we've owned it is the more people drink, the bigger the ghosts they see. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth.
I got some of the finest neighbors you'd ever want to come across. And it's interesting watching the kids. You mentioned an outhouse to a kid. Well, what's that? Well, that's where you have to go out to use the bathroom. No. They just have a real rough time with that. They can't fathom that.
We've had a few people that just, pull into town, look around, what a dump, turn around and go back. I don't think they appreciate history very well, that's all I can say. But we have far more people that come in town with their mouths open and go, had no idea anything like this ever existed.
Another thing that we ran into was the cemetery. I mean, we walked up on the hill and we commented, oh my gosh, to get a shovel and try to get a body in that ground.
Yeah, I mean, I realized they were miners, but at that time you'd think that they would probably be trying to do something else like make a living or eat that day. But, the respect that they must have had for life and death, I think just really caught me to where I realized that these people, they weren't very old. Most of them were kids and teenagers and in their 30s, 40s. There was very seldom you seen anybody in their 60s and 70s. And so I think life meant a lot to them, but I think death meant a lot to them also.
So Dave, tell us about the church here in Silver City.
Well, this is Our Lady of Tears Catholic Church. It's the third location in Silver City for a Catholic church. This building we're in now started out as St. James Episcopal Church. It was built in 1898, and it was the Episcopal Church for 30 years up here. And by the late 1920s, most of the people had moved away. The Episcopalians were no longer using this building, so it was sold to the Catholic diocese, and it's been the Catholic Church up here ever since.
I've never seen such a beautiful hike up to a church.
Yeah. Father Dennis Day, who's our first priest up here, said this was the church closest to heaven in the state of Idaho because we're at 6,200 feet. There's just a lot of history to see. There's a lot of old mines. There were over 275 mines in the general area in its heyday, and you'll see a lot of mine diggings. Most of the mines are closed up now. You can't go into any of them because of safety issues and stuff.
Now, Roger, we were over at the drugstore last night, and you showed us some really cool things. When you bought the drugstore, what was in there?
Everything you see. I brought in a handful of kerosene lamps. That's it. You can't get anywhere and buy medicine that's 1906, still in the wrapper. So yeah, everything that's there has been there for a long while. The child's casket, that really rings home with the younger kids. They have a moment when they see that. I don't even like to think of myself as an owner, maybe a keeper. You can't take nothing with you when you leave this world, so you can share it or you can keep it to yourself, and I choose to share it.
Let's talk a little bit more about that drugstore. I mean, it's there. We walk in, and oh my gosh, it looks like it has 1910 stuff in it.
Yeah, I think he said that the newest stuff he has was 1908. So everything was there from the 1860s on, and it looked like somebody just dropped it, locked the door, and walked away.
An x-ray machine, all kinds of drugs, and even an opium order form from the IRS.
Yeah, exactly. Opium, marijuana, I mean, everything that they had, it was just amazing. And then you turned the page and, yeah, the IRS was even taking care of stuff even back in the 1900s. That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's amazing that people are so passionate about this, and they're saying, we don't need electricity here because we want it the way that it used to be.
Yeah, they said that the electricity is just on the other side of the hill, but they're not interested in bringing it here. And you can kind of see how passionate they are about kind of leaving things the way they are. I'm not sure that they want a whole bunch of stuff, but you can see that the people who own the hotel would appreciate maybe an upgrade here or there and a foundation here or there or some of those type of things. But I couldn't believe the inside of the church, the school, everything else. And where they said there was 260 buildings here at one time, and now there's only 60. I mean, it's cool that there's still 60, but imagine that there was 260 here at one time.
Most everybody up here, are pretty much vacationers or, retired people. There's a few of us have a legitimate purpose up here. I raise cattle in the area. This is part of my summer range, and
we've been discovered now that the population down in the valley is getting so huge, and it's just a day trip from Boise. So a lot of people come up here, but they're not prepared for the bad roads. And a lot of times they'll come up in inclement weather or late in the fall or early in the spring when it's still snowy up here, and they'll get stuck.
So for someone who has never been here before, what advice do you have?
I always tell everybody, please turn off your GPS when you get to Murphy. And follow the instructions that are on our website and on our brochure. It's 23 miles off of Highway 78. First 7.5 miles are paved, then it gets a little interesting.
The closer you get to town, the rougher and narrower the road gets, and we get a lot of traffic. So, people have to watch out for traffic, and they have to make sure they've got a full tank of gas when they come up here because there's no gas station.
What advice on how to get a hotel room?
It's always a good idea to give us a call before you come because sometimes we are booked up. We have 13 rooms, some with heat, some with not. And in the summertime, it's usually not a problem. And when the lights go out, it is very dark, unless the stars are shining, and then it's dark with stars. It's still dark. So I tell everybody, a flashlight is always a good idea, because if you're out walking around and it's daylight and you get a mile or two from town, all of a sudden sun goes behind those mountains. It doesn't take very long for it to get dark.
History is, I love it, and that's what's held me here probably the best.
Well, and what I think is interesting is someone once said that history is a lie agreed upon. There's no lies here because of exactly how it was.
No, this is pretty honest. As far as I know, it's as honest as it gets.
we raise a Hereford Simmental cross of cattle, and they're kind of unique because the way we bred them up and the genetics, and it's a special breed for this type of conditions. Their legs are shorter on one side than they are on the other, so they can go around the hillsides.
Silver City, Idaho. What an amazing place to connect with our history. Someone said it best, that no one comes to Silver City just once. There's a lot to see, there's a lot to do. And what's amazing is there are all these antiques just on the side of the road. It's like people left in the early 1900s and left all their stuff. It's a living historical museum, a great opportunity to connect with our past. Take the opportunity, get off the road a little bit on your long way home. Silver City, Idaho.